Welcome to Whiskey Nightcaps, the channel where we do drink before bedtime. I am your gracious host, Jason Davis. And this is episode number 1, the launch of the channel. So I want to welcome you all here. I thank you for spending a couple of minutes of your time to talk to me about one of my favorite pastimes, and probably one of yours as well. Now, disclaimer. Before we get into this episode, I just want to let you know that I am a super fanboy of the Wild Turkey line of whiskeys. The Russell people know exactly what they're doing over there. So I wanted to start this off with the showdown of Wild Turkey whiskeys. Now, anybody that knows Wild Turkey knows there's a distinct flavor profile that the whiskey is known for. However, having these different lines, they're there for a reason, right? Because there's something different about each one, something that they're bringing to the table that the next one does not possess, whether it be through the distillation process, the maturation process, or the bottling process. Wild Turkey is probably one of the most well-known brands of whiskey in America, and the reason being is because it is widely available. And for that particular reason, I didn't want to try it at first. I remember a friend of mine used to carry a bottle of Wild Turkey in his back pocket, and to me it was a cheap whiskey. That was the thought that I had in my mind. Now we don't say cheap, we say budget, right? Because even though it's a lower price point, it does have value, and we know that tender love and care was taken into distilling this product. This Wild Turkey 101 retails for about $25, which is a steal. There's nothing cheap about it. Now, the Rare Breed is probably one of my favorite bourbons of all time. And the reason being is to me, it just has something that's different from other bourbons. Like, everybody knows that bourbons have a certain particular type of taste to them, but this one was unique to me, and that's what brought me to the table. So we're gonna the more talking I do, the less drinking we're actually doing, so I'm gonna try to keep it brief. However, I want you to be informed. I want you to be enlightened when you come to my channel. All right, now, but let's get into some comparisons, right? That's what you came here for, was the slug fest between the Wild Turkey expressions. And before anybody goes into the comments and says anything about why Russell's Reserve is not represented here, 2 reasons. 1, even though it comes from the Wild Turkey brand, it is called Russell's Reserve. 2, I just don't have it. Now, let's start with the Wild Turkey 101. This is 50.5 ABV, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but this is mostly just glass right here because this bottle is almost empty. It's one of my everydays, right? Let's go in. So you're definitely getting that caramel butterscotch type note. It's considered a high rye, so you're getting a little bit of that spice on the back end as well. Let's go in for a sip. Some heat on the tongue. I usually let it sit on my tongue for a second before I actually swallow it, and I move it around on my tongue because your tongue has different centers on it for different things, like sweet, salty, so on and so forth. And I wanted to touch all those to pick up all those profiles. But what I was gonna say was, when I let it sit there, the vanilla really starts to become pronounced. You can't go wrong with this. This is a really good bourbon, especially for the price point. I mean, you can spend all the money you want to on expensive stuff just for the sake of saying you did, if it makes you feel good. But I like to stretch my dollars, right? Now on the finish, I'm getting a lot of that bacon spice, that cinnamon, nutmeg type of clove type of spice, but it's not bad. it says bold on it, and that's what you definitely get with Wild Turkey 101. When you think about bourbon and the expression that it brings, bourbon is American, it is brash, it is out there, it is a punch to the face, and that's what this is. It represents us well. Now, rare breed, 58.4, so we're going up a notch. We're going up almost 8% ABV. And again, if you can see this bottle, it is pretty much almost done, you know, because I love this particular bourbon. You know, out of all the whiskeys, I won't say I'm a bourbon guy, but I do have a lot of bourbons in my collection, and this is probably my favorite one. You know, like I said, to me, it's unique in its expression. It doesn't taste like other bourbons to me, but let's go in and see what's happening here. You can't put your nose too close to this, or you'll singe off every hair you have. Like, it's definitely a lot different than the 101. It's almost softer. And it has like a butterscotch type of smell to it. But it's deceiving. Almost like a cola type of smell. Let's go in. My favorite part, slangte. Even the mouthfeel is different. Like, you can feel it coating your tongue. It's kind of oily, like it's spreading out, and the finish is still going. I'm telling you, this one is good. This one is good. I love it. But it definitely tastes like a kettle corn, you know, like a sweet and salty caramel type of flavors. It's buttery, like somebody melted butter and just poured it into some bourbon. Probably not for the novice, somebody you're trying to introduce into bourbon. It might be too much for them. But for the rest of us, it's great. All right, on to number 3. This is Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, coming in at 50.5. So the ABV is the same as the Wild Turkey 101. Now, this is a single barrel, which means that from bottle to bottle, you may get different expressions, different flavor profiles, which leads me to believe, being that it is 50.5, that it is the same as the Wild Turkey 101, but just single barrel, okay? Typically, distillers will take a lot of their barrels and mix them together to get a consistent flavor profile, but they will do single barrel expressions, which is almost like you don't know what you're gonna get. It's like, life is like a box of chocolates. All right, let's take a look at this. It does smell similar to the 101. You know, the reason why I was so adamant on getting this bottle is because it looked similar to the Rare Breed bottle, and so I was hoping that it was from that same line of whiskeys, those same barrels, but it's not. Like I said, I think it's more closely related to the 101. So it's a cousin of Rare Breed, but it is like a brother to the 101. I mean, that's, yeah. You know, the difference between this and the 101 is I think it's very spice forward. But Have to taste it to tell the tale. That's spicy. Yeah, that's definitely spicy. The vanilla caramel flavors are a lot more muted. I'm not even really, I get a little bit of the caramel, vanilla, like faint on the finish. Like I said, it's very spice heavy. The rye portion of the mash bill comes out more pronounced in this, but it's good. Now we're getting to our last one, then we'll take a little break, come back, dive back in again, and see if there's anything different that we can pick up. This is Wild Turkey Longbranch. Matthew McConaughey is a brand spokesman for Wild Turkey, and this is his, well, not his brand, but this is something that he helped put together, this expression here. Out of all of these, it has the lowest ABV, coming in at 43%, and it's supposed to be oak and mesquite charcoal. It doesn't say filter, but pretty much we know that's what it is. Almost like what Jack Daniels does with their whiskey. It's a small batch. So, all right, this one is single barrel, which means that they take a barrel and they fill as many bottles as they can with that one barrel, and they move on, which, like I said, from bottle to bottle, you will get different flavor profiles, expressions. This is small batch, which means they are still blending some of the whiskeys together, but just a smaller batch of barrels, maybe like 100 barrels or something like that. I ran out of Glencairns. The problem with Glencairns is that when you let people who are not you wash them, a lot of times they get broken. So I had to use a shot glass instead. To be expected because the ABV is a lot less. It's it's a lot softer. You can tell, just by putting this to your nose, that the ABV is a lot less than the rest of these. You can get in closer to it to try to pick up more of that air. I like to shift from nostril to nostril because I believe that when you go from one to the next, you're able to pick up different nuances in those different nostrils. Bourbon always reminds me of soda, like a cola, a Pepsi, or a Coke, or something like that. And this one is like one that you've let sit out a little bit, but not in a bad way. More vanilla on the front. But you can't pick up the rye on that back end. You can tell it's been mellowed. I can agree that it's been mellowed. It does smell similar to Jack. But let's taste it. Cheers. There's definitely something different there. The first time I had this was maybe a year or two ago during the Thanksgiving holiday. I was at a hookah bar in New York, and I didn't particularly care for it, but I think it's because while I was sitting at the bar, I was having all of these different whiskeys, scotches, bourbons, and stuff like that, and what you put into you affects your taste, right? And there's probably certain things you shouldn't mix in your mouth, right? So I gave it another shot recently, wasn't disappointed, definitely tasted different. You know, as I'm taking this in right now, you definitely can pick up the woody expression that's there, that oak that comes out in here. It's definitely distinct from these. So when we were talking earlier, we said that these two were brothers. This was a cousin. This is more like a second cousin. Not a first cousin, but a second cousin. The one that you don't like. No. It's like the second cousin that's like cool with you, so you pretend like it's a first cousin. All right, so we're gonna have a little bit of water, and then we'll come back, finish off the rest of these. I'll be toasty by that time, and hopefully you will be too, and we'll give a final synopsis on these. And we are back. If you walk in this room right now, you would love it because the smell of bourbon is in the air, baby. All right, we're gonna go ahead and finish these things off, and then we can give a final synopsis on which one of these out of this entire line of expressions is the best, even though there's no losers. There's no losers because, like I said before, I am a total fan of the Wild Turkey line of whiskeys. I don't think they make one that I do not like, even though I have never tried the 80 and probably never will because I don't want the 40 ABV. All right, let's go back to the 101. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna go down the line, take another whiff, and then take another sip. Because that first sip, as most of you all know, has the most alcohol or ethanol in it. And so I may get up to pick up something different from these when I go back in the second time. But why are we wasting time? I'm gonna go backwards this time. You know, last time when I started the tastings, I went from the 101 to the Longbranch, but this time I'm gonna start with the Longbranch and go this way just in case the things that I had previously, you know, altered my perception of this particular whiskey. You know, I'm actually getting some of that licorice on the taste as well. That's interesting. That is interesting. Let's go back to the Kentucky Spirit. Cheers. No difference. Still just as spicy as it was previously. You know, another thing I like to do when I'm tasting is once I get the whiskey into my mouth, I push it up against the roof of my mouth so that there's no space, there's no air gaps. And a lot of times that helps me to pick up more flavors. But yeah, there was no change in this one. It's still very baking spice forward, very cinnamon forward. Remember that stupid cinnamon challenge where people put dry cinnamon on a spoon and put it in their mouth? That's what this is like. Like you just took a spoon of cinnamon, just scooped it and shoved it in. One of my best friends here, the Rare Breed. I love the way it smells though. 58.4, so I have to be careful going in. Cheers. Wish me luck. Yeah. More of that butter is coming out, that buttery. But again, like I said, you can feel the difference of this on your tongue. Like I said, it's oily and it just coats everything and spreads out. And you have that, that butter scotch type taste, but like almost like real actual butter. Like you ever had French toast, you know, that was cooked in a lot of butter, and so you get that. Yeah, absolutely. I know I already smelled this, but I do this all the time as I drink. Even with whiskeys that I'm like super familiar with, I still just like to nose them. You know, even though this has a lot of the rye in it, it's not like this one where, like I said, it's like this is dry. This here is dry. You get the spice on this one, but because there's so many other things that play, that vanilla and that caramel all mixing together, it dampens the spice just a little bit. But still to the point where it's enjoyable and it tingles the mouth. But this is like I said, just a scoop of cinnamon. If I have to pick one of these as the go-to, as my favorite, it's definitely going to be the rare breed. And possibly that has something to do with the ABV. The higher the ABV, usually the better the flavor profile. Because how do you get to a lower ABV? You get to that lower ABV by adding in water, right? Now, I don't know if you drink coffee, but if you drink coffee and you add water to black coffee, it's not going to be great, right? So the more water you add into the whiskey, it takes away. This is my winner. This is the one I love the most. And then after that, I'm going back to the 101. There's a reason why certain whiskeys are so well known, right? If it's horrible, people just are not going to buy it. But the 101 is such a mainstay because it's affordable and it's good. Not only as a mixer, which I'm sure a lot of people do use this as a mixer, but I never use it to mix. I drink this neat all the time. You can use this to sip and it's great. So if we're going in line, we're gonna say rare breed is number 1. Coming in at number 2 is the Wild Turkey 101. Coming in at number 3, surprise, is the Longbranch. And then coming in at number 4 is the Kentucky Spirit. Bet you didn't see that coming, did you? Well, listen, I appreciate you guys riding this thing out with me, and there'll be a lot more videos, a lot more content coming. Please make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get more content from me, because there's a lot more drinking that we have to do, a lot more whiskeys we have to explore together. And I hope you have your glass out as well while I'm doing this, so that you can enjoy and feel the same feeling that I'm feeling as well. All right. Hey, that's it, man. Jason Davis calling it quits, and I'll see you guys on the next run.